everybody, to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. Today is a rainy and potentially flooding day in Rhode Island as the storm comes up, the remnants of the hurricane come up, and we're looking at maybe as much, according to the National Weather Service, on the low side, 2.5 inches. On the high side, as much as 4 to 5 inches. So be aware of that and be safe during this period of time. Let's go over to our friends at Mott and Chace, Sotheby's International. Kim Marion joins us. This is a favorite time for us real estate junkies to get into what's going on in the market. Kim, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's always great. This is for me, it's the funnest time. I'm a total junkie on what's for sale and where it is. And you know, there's been a tremendous amount of discussion about the increased prices of single-family homes in Rhode Island. And we're moving up, maybe by the end of the year, that the median price might hit $400,000. It's really a remarkable milestone, a complete doubling of the median household price in a decade. We've talked a lot about where the hot spots are. Where might be some of the deals to be had? Where are things cooling off maybe a little bit? Maybe there's a little bit of inventory. It's not this crazy, 17 people at the open house, 9 bids.
17? Where have you been? Actually, 17 might be okay. I'm going to say this with a little bit of a caveat that we are still at only 1.5 months inventory. And Josh, as you know, as a real estate junkie, a balanced market is 6 months of inventory. So are we still hot? Yes, we're still hot. You already know that. However, I have had a couple of personal stories that I can share with you where I was very surprised to not have a crazy multiple offer situation. We did still pay over asking, but I can tell you that just in the last 2 weeks, I had a property in Elmhurst, which is super popular here in Providence, and we did secure that property with against only 1 or 2 offers, and that property was on the market for 5 days. I say that almost with a little bit of embarrassment because 5 days is a very, very short amount of time. But in this market, properties have been going under contract in 1-2 hour open house. So it felt like, wow, this property is still available. Let's get in. Let's get our offer in. We did negotiate against 1 other buyer as opposed to negotiating against 8 or 10, or in some cases a few months ago, 15 offers. And we were able to get that property. And I did have another Providence property, again, that was closer to the 800s, that was secured against 3 other offers that had been on the market for 20 days. So that property needed renovation. So with your tip concept in mind, or where can I find a bargain? I think we may have talked about it before, but it's worth saying again that if there's a home that needs a little bit of renovation and you can see yourself doing that, that's going to be a place where you can maybe find a little bit of a discount in price.
I know the property in Elmhurst I assume hasn't closed yet, so you can't give away the specific price, but give us the ballpark of the range in which maybe you can tell us what that house went on the market for.
Sure. It went on for, I'm trying to think who can Google it and find the answer. How about if I say this? It was under 400 and we paid 20, we will be paying 25 over asking. And okay. In the big picture, I know it sounds like a lot. The house is pristine, so there won't be a lot for my buyer to do. But in the big picture, a few months ago, some of those were going for 40 and 50 over. I feel like great house, ready to go, turnkey, terrific neighborhood, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, great yard that's fenced. It had all of the things that make it a perfect little house, and it wasn't 40 or 50 over. It was still over. It was 25 over. I have a client going to look at a property tonight. Again, Providence. I do have a few other thoughts, but right now I'm still on Providence. He's going to look at a house that's been on the market for 8 days. Again, Providence, that's a long time in this market. And the agent told me they don't have any offers yet. They have a second showing this weekend. That tells me that there's just a little bit of room that's starting to open up. It's a beautiful property and it's updated. So we'll have to see how that goes. I was able to secure property in Narragansett. And that's really saying something because it's close to the beach and close to a little private beach area that's part of a little neighborhood association. And we got that property 22 under asking. And I
Wow.
think that that happened because the house has electric heat. This is another interesting thing. A lot of people are really concerned when they see electric heat. I've done so many of these sales with a home with electric heat. What you can do if you're curious about a house that has electric, not oil, not gas, but literally an electric heating system, call National Grid, give them the address. They can tell you what the heating costs were, and you can average it out for the entire year. What I have found is that it ends up being very close to an oil or a gas heat situation. It may not be as much of a deterrent as you would initially think if you see a house with electric heat. So just something to think about there.
Let's go back to the east side.
Mm,
House for 800,000 but needs some work. When you say
yes.
need some work, is that a $50,000 worth of work or $200,000 worth of work?
It's probably 100. It's well, depending on your style and what you're going to renovate. It needs 2 bathrooms. There on the small side, there's a master bath that's already been renovated, and it needs kitchen cabinets. But you could move in and have a pretty decent kitchen the way it is. I just know the client that I have is going to want to rehab that. So they'll be in it they'll be in it, but they'll still have resale at the end of the day.
Great. Let's talk about outside of Providence. Any other communities you're seeing maybe a little slowing, maybe a little opportunity for those who are looking to buy a home?
I see a couple of, and I can't even believe I'm going to say this to you, but I've seen a couple of multis down in the West Warwick area, and there's actually a couple of multis on the east side, not to come back here, but Warwick, West Warwick, and also I've seen a couple in Smithfield where it's just starting to be 4 or 5 people coming to an open house instead of 25 people lined up and a deluge of calls for open houses. As I say this, I just want to reiterate, it is still a hot market, and with 1.5 months of inventory, if you want to sell in the next 5 years or even in the next 3 years, really this is the time to do it, because the shift, experts say, if you do your Googling and you follow the real estate news nationwide, it's definitely going to start to slow a little bit. Now we have the second wave of variant. I don't know how that's going to affect the market. I worked solidly, and I know that my colleagues all worked solidly through our first COVID. It's actually an incredibly busy year, but I don't know what will happen with this variant. So
Yeah, you'll probably be on the private island that you recently purchased.
yeah.
So, because it was such a good year. So you may take the next surge off and just relax on your private island. Let's jump
doubt
over
it.
to let's jump over to a couple things. One is for sale by owners. Listen, there's some people who are entrepreneurs, or they don't want to give up the 3, the 6%, the 1%, the 1.5%, whatever the mix might be, but they want to get every single dollar out of it. And for some people, that may be the right thing to do. They know how to handle this. They have attorneys and accountants that are well-positioned and experts, and they may have done it in the past. But talk about what some of the complications are and I don't mean for you to, self-aggrandize, but just, what's the upside and the downside in that situation?
Yeah, so I thought of this is a good topic because you're thinking about, well, maybe I can get a deal. Talking about where are the deals.
Right.
Maybe a for sale by owner or maybe not. So I'll tell you a few of the things that I think are roadblocks, but then I can give you a couple of thoughts if you're just hell-bent on doing it that might be helpful, just so I'm fair, because I want to be fair. For sale by owner is tricky, and they call it a FSBO in the business. You got a FSBO, FSBO. So for sale by owner is tricky for a few reasons. One, I would say if you are working from home and you have a family at home, you really need to have a lot of time. You're going to have professional photography. If you want to sell, professional photography is I mean, think about it. Putting your house on the market is kind of like putting yourself on a dating site. You really need to look your best. You really need to present yourself well. So if you just go through your house and snap with an iPhone, which I see a lot of that on for sale by owners, it's really difficult to attract a great buyer. You will be putting quite a bit of money out front if you're going to hire a photographer. You're going to be putting your house on marketing sites like Zillow, Realtor.com. Another thing about Zillow, so you figure, okay, I'm going to put my house on Zillow. I'm going to get these phone calls, and I'm going to take care of all of this myself. I feel qualified. I'm going for it. When you put your house on Zillow, there are real estate agents that advertise on Zillow. So your house pops up as a for sale by owner, and alongside the picture of your home is a picture of a realtor with a connect with a realtor now. That button gets pushed, and you actually don't get the direct call from the buyer that you might have thought you would get. So you're still ending up with a buyer that's probably going to have a realtor. In fact, 85 to 90% of buyers work with the realtor, especially in a market like we're in right now.
So that, just to clarify, so that for sale by owner would potentially recap 3% of the sale, but not 6% of the sale.
That's right. You would still have to pay a real estate agent, and because the buyer will come represented. So you're going to be negotiating with, this is the other challenge, you're going to be negotiating with potentially a few people that maybe you didn't think about. You're going to have to negotiate with the buyer's agent for a commission. You're going to have to negotiate with an appraiser if for some reason the house doesn't appraise. Potentially, you're going to be negotiating for yourself against a realtor who is a professional negotiator, and maybe you are too. But I'm just throwing out all the scenarios for repairs or any kind of concessions that the buyer might want. And you have to deal with hiring your own attorney, which is probably the easiest part of the whole thing, and then working potentially with the buyer's attorney. So realtors are accustomed to dealing with all of the contracts, following mortgage contingency dates to make sure that nothing goes wrong, dealing with hiring the inspector and working with all of the repairs potentially that need to be done. As a homeowner, you're emotionally involved in your property, and strangers that are unrepresented, if you put your house on Craigslist, maybe you say, oh, I'll put my house on Craigslist and I'll get a bunch of phone calls. Yes, you will. Half of them could be scams, or half of them could be people that are just looky-loos, that expression, looky-loos. You've got people coming through your house where, everything you own is on display, and they may be unrepresented. They may be legitimate buyers, or they may be scammer people. You don't really know. Realtors do pre-qualify people. We meet them, we talk to them, we frequently make sure that their credentials they're legitimate. With their pre-approval. So some of the complications are just letting strangers in your house. I mean, on top of everything else.
Talk a little bit about the benefit, though, for that for sale by owner. What's the upside?
The upside, if you have a great real estate attorney, which I would say you absolutely must have a great real estate attorney, and if you really follow the market, you could do well. If your house is in great shape and you know how to price it properly, you could do well because you will only be paying half of the commission. Like I say, instead of a 6% or a 5% that would be taken out of your profit, maybe it's a 2.5% or 3% to the buyer's realtor only. Right. You do want to protect yourself from legal mishaps. One of the things, I just looked down at my notes, a lot of realtors know that sellers who own, FSBO sellers it's very difficult to take strangers into your house and have them talk about your house in front of you in ways that are maybe not flattering. And that happens all the time. And it really can set a bad tone between buyer and seller. And it can be complicated. It's so much easier to have a realtor represent you and represent your property.
You mean when the person says that's the ugliest bedroom I've ever seen in my life?
Yeah, why would they ever pick purple, or whatever? And you're thinking, this is the greatest bedroom I've ever designed. It's emotional because it's personal. Maybe you've raised your family there. there. Maybe your partner carried you over the threshold, and that first day you bought the house. I mean, this selling something of your own that you're emotionally involved in is difficult. I will say that, and this is something I think people should make sure they research and Google if they have a minute, and they should if they're going to FSBO. Typically, with a realtor, you will end up getting 15 to 20%, sometimes more, for your home. So you're thinking about compromising 5% or even 3% to go with a for sale by owner. For sale by owners typically sell for less. They're not marketed as well. The pictures aren't as good. Homeowners are, as I say, emotional, and they don't negotiate as well as, a detached but professional realtor. But if you're hell bent on it, there's a couple things you should probably do. One is get an email and a phone number, and you can do that even through Google, that are specific for you listing the property, because you will have 2,000 realtors calling you to try to represent you. Hi, this is Kim from Sotheby's. I have a client that wants to see your home. Oh, and by the way, how's the FSBO going? And maybe we could meet. And then, but one of those calls is fine. And if it's me, especially, but you're going to have potentially hundreds of realtors calling you, and it's very stressful. So when you are done with your FSBO, you want to be able to shut that number down. So using your own phone number is not ideal. That's a small thing, but it ends up being a pretty
yeah, I can see it 100%. Absolutely.
Tip number 2, hire a professional photographer. Like I said, you're putting your house on it's the biggest financial investment you have. In most cases, you're putting it out there for the world to see. If you have to spend, even $800 or $1,000 for photography, it is going to get you your money back. Just do that, and get the very best real estate attorney you can, because you won't have a realtor in your corner helping you negotiate the twists and turns and all of the dates that are important and the repairs and all the things we mentioned. So I think that it can be done, especially if you're somebody that really knows the market and is professional, works with contracts often. If not, work with a professional. It could be the difference between 8 months on the market or 6 months on the market. Yes, even in this market, I've seen people sit and sit and sit. Realtors do not love to take clients to a for sale by owner, because they know it's a challenge the whole way through, not only just to negotiate for their client to purchase, but also to negotiate for themselves with a person that has already clearly indicated they don't really see the value in paying a realtor to do the work. So we will take our clients where they want to go. FSBOs typically make us feel sad because we know it's going to be a hard road. And in this market, we really want to make sure that our clients get everything they want, and with no mishaps.
Kim Marion, thank you as always, all the insights. Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
Even the private island that you purchased.
I wish.
Was that a for sale by owner, by the way? No, we'll pick that up next time you're on. For everybody else, stay tuned. Many more updates, and we've got an interesting story coming around noontime today. A very, very intriguing national political story that has significant Rhode Island connections. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, it's time to do so. There's a bunch of national stories. Last week we wrote about it. Cam Newton may not have a job because he didn't get vaccinated. So you've got deadlines in a whole host of different employers who are letting people go because they're not vaccinated. Be safe, be employed, and keep the rest of your family healthy as well. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for more.